Happy day. Bank 60s back here. What's happening? It's been a while. I don't know if you can hear the music in the background, but we got a new experience coming your way, and I'm excited to bring it to you. Man, I've taken a big break. I know. I think it's probably been a little bit too long for those, who look on this and they're like, oh man, you need to be professional about all this, right? You need to make sure you're posting content. Well, I haven't done a great job keeping up, I guess. However, here we are. Look, big time departure. This is a switcheroo from a game that I was just playing, that you were watching me play a lot of, was Scourge of War, Waterloo. And as things do, a good game comes along, an opportunity comes along to share just a little bit of a different experience, and that's what we have here with U-Boat. Kind of a, kind of like a contemporary of the Silent Hunter franchise of games. Plenty of people would recognize that brand name. But with a really interesting kind of, to a degree, I should say, like a role-playing kind of twist, you might say. And it's really been a lot of fun. And so what we'll do is join my current U-Boat campaign in progress. All right, and I'll go ahead and I'll catch you up on how things have been going and kind of what you're looking at and what I'm up to. It'll be fun. And you'll notice the graphics in this game are really something else. As realistic as graphics can get, I think for this period, the devs for this game did great. So we're in the midst of the fog. Game is paused, although in this game, pause isn't as much a pause as it is like super slow-mo Deadeye. Those of you who played Red Dead Redemption 2 know what I'm talking about. But super duper slow motion. That's what you're looking at here. And we begin really with just kind of an explanation of what you're looking at. This is U-Boat, particularly U-552, with the dancing devils on the conning tower here. And you get a really good look at these really nice graphics here. Beautiful. Moving through the water here in the midst of our war patrol. I believe this would be our 5th. Let me just click up here on the journal. Yeah, our 6th. We've already actually gotten to where we're about ready to, if you look up here where my mouse is, finish up traveling the full distance of kilometers needed to wrap up the patrol. Looking at the map here, you can see where we are in the world. And for those of you who don't know what U-Boat is, what a U-Boat was, what this is meant to reflect upon the gamer, and that is the World War II Battle of the Atlantic and then other naval operations between German Kriegsmarine submarines, the U-Boats, I think it's Untersee float. I can't remember. Untersee boat, maybe. I am no good at it. So, follow me for my crappy German. But we're in the midst of World War II. You can see here in the top left We have exactly when we are, 21st July 1941, coming up on 0700. And we are fighting on the German side. I hope nobody has a huge issue with that, because it's meant to simulate the experience after all of all sides and conflicts. And here we are, as the Germans. The idea was in history that U-boats would come out, patrol the deep waters of the Atlantic Ocean, the Mediterranean, the North Sea, the Norwegian Sea, and disrupt any and all merchant shipping, food, consumer products, military supplies, of course, most importantly, but other things that would support the war effort that still existed at the time in England for the UK. The UK, there's a period during the Second World War where, as you can see here, blue depicts Germany's gains thus far into the war historically, and it's true to history that the Germans were really masters of Europe by this point, and it was almost solely England that stood up to Germany. Now, at this point in the war, the Germans have, as you can see by this graphic right here, invaded Russia. But to focus on what the point of the U-boat operations really truly were, was to interrupt supply and try to cut off England. Plenty of supply interrupted for Russia through the Norwegian Sea and U-boat operations there. But getting rid of the threat from England was the big goal. And so there was all kinds, and then of course, later on when the United States got involved, and so you can see that the map goes way over here. Pretty darn neat. And you can see that there's ports here. I haven't gotten far enough into the game yet where I actually get to see what these missions are, if there's missions over there, and how that goes. But it looks like there will be something. They wouldn't have ports there, interactable ports for no reason, I would say. You can actually click on them. I won't do that now. But that's the scenario that we're in here. So we're fighting this battle to kill as much merchant shipping as possible and make it harder for England to continue the United Kingdom's war effort, from the home front. And so we command one boat in the entire German fleet, and we are just kind of steaming the high seas at the moment in the midst of this patrol that we told you we were just about ready to be finishing up here. What's that? Maybe another 500 kilometers before we're done. And what they do is they have you jump in and you take command. This is your boat. And I mean, it's again, referring back to one of my favorite games of all time. If you haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2, you've missed out. But if you're a Red Dead 2 player, think of your U-boat as your horse, except for way more moving parts and way more to take care of. So you can zoom in now here. We're inside of our boat. And this is kind of the neat part. I really do like this. It's like incorporating a little bit of the atmosphere of The Sims into a military strategy and war game. Pretty cool. You have your different characters. I have Jürgen Ganga, who is one of my engineers right now. He's working on keeping the diesel engines running tip-top. And then you have other characters, these being down here your officers. Boom, boom, boom. This guy happens to be a tag-along journalist, a war correspondent who was a part of my original mission when leaving port. And each officer is essentially representative of what you could call, well, I'm trying to explain what you're seeing right here. This is the number of sailors who are able to help this officer at any one task. And what I was about to say is that one officer represents roughly the force of one officer, two sailors. So you figure the boat's got, I think it ended up being something like 40 to 50 men altogether. in the crew. And then these are just, officer members of the crew that you have who are of the officer leader class. And they fill different functions. You'll notice where my mouse pointer is here. There's the cross, wrench, and screwdriver. There's what looks to be a little radiographic here. This is my radio man. He's on the radio, listening for any enemy traffic, listening for any friendly radio traffic. Here is our engineers. These guys take care of the engines. They can take care of the torpedoes for you. They can have crew members help them do both. These are our leader class officers who do things like manage the periscope, man the flak gun, man the observation station, man the deck gun, and have sailors help them do all those things, as well as man the navigation station. One other thing that these engineers are able to do is to help when the U-boat needs to be steered under the water with both dive planes and steering the rudder. And that can be very, of course, important when you're in a tight spot. And that happens often, which might happen right here, right in front of you as we're kind of introducing you to the game here. Once again, out in, basically not quite North Atlantic Ocean, on patrol within my patrol zone right here. And worth telling you, I suppose, kind of the way that things have gone for me thus far in this game. I started in April of 1941. I've made it to 21 July 1941. And I've managed to stay alive the entire time. I haven't been killed yet. And it's easy if you if you decide to do risky things, do honestly pretty darn fun things. It's easy to end up getting yourself killed in this game and sunk. And damage control becomes a whole nother ordeal altogether, which I'll certainly be sharing with you, I'm sure, at one point. But to tell you kind of what has been happening thus far is mainly patrolling out in this part of the ocean. I'm based out of the port of Wilhelmshaven in Germany, and on several different missions have moved through the North Sea, up around Scotland, up around Ireland, and around this way to patrol. And that's mainly been the bulk of the work thus far, has been patrolling. There's been some interesting wrinkles here and there that I think I'd like to continue playing and share with you along the way. But generally speaking, the missions have all been revolved around the traditional Battle of the Atlantic attack, which was to interrupt and destroy as much merchant shipping as possible.
Yeah, what?
I'm going to change my course within my patrol zone here, kind of keep heading up this way. When you get close to, as was the case in history, the southwest coast of Ireland, once you get close to land or really kind of anywhere in this zone, you do make yourself susceptible to attack by air. And right now, that is one thing I need to be worried about. So we're going to switch our captain, this is our skipper, to watch duty. That's what I just did right there. What that did was put him up here on the conning tower. Now, I could do that manually if I wanted to. Come into the boat. I could grab him. I could click right there and manually put him up there. I don't do that, and I don't do it for a particular reason. That's because I have arranged a work schedule for my men, and we'll be going into that as we take a closer look at this game. It really is a pretty darn good game, I have to tell you. It really is. As time goes along, here I am making sure that my engines are running tip-top shape so that we don't burn too much fuel too quickly. So I'll show you a little bit of where I've been. It's been mainly out here. It's been this last patrol, a little more interesting. New contact, chimney smoke. Small group of 5 to 10 ships. So here's where we could go ahead and pause it, and I could show you more of the game in real time. So here is where I'll just tell you that it would be fun to go right after this thing. I only have one torpedo left. This is near the end of my patrol. I've already done a whole good bit of work. One torpedo in the bow, and one torpedo in the stern. Both T2s, which we'll get into as we again continue exploring, peeling back the layers. So for now, considering the idea that for those who understand kind of the way that this Battle of the Atlantic played out over the course of 1941, 1942, 1943, and what each side had at its disposal, I suspect that a group this size most likely is going to have some escorts, destroyer class naval ships, naval warships, and corvette class naval warships that are guarding the heavier freighters. And at this point, since I don't have much in the way of torpedoes, I really wanted to save the last torpedoes I've got for just in case I run across any enemy warships going back through the English Channel, because that's the way I've decided that I'm going to go. Which, as a matter of fact, now that I've got this here in this direction in my path, this makes for a good time to just go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and get started moving in that direction. And then the next thing I'm going to do, I'll take the game off of pause, is just start to plot the way my course is going to go. Just kind of get my bearings set. Boom. Keep an eye on what's going to be happening here. And then one other thing, now that we've spotted that, I will order my radio man to get back to his station here on the radio. Right there, he was sleeping. His schedule had him sleeping now at 21:20. And now, though, I need him to go ahead and send this. It makes sense because from the role-playing aspect, you'd want to send the radio message off as soon as you possibly could so that you could accurately and timely, give it accurate and timely location of the enemy detection or of the enemy contact. So I go ahead, I get him up, I put him on the radio to send that message, which you might have missed me click up here to do. And then after he's done, I go ahead and I right-click back in the sub somewhere, and he'll go back to his automated AI schedule. It's a little micromanaging, when you're in a chaotic situation and you're when you're in a tight spot and you're kind of ordering everybody around to do, and you have to get things kind of back into the AI groove. It can be a little bit cumbersome, I will say, but once you've kind of figured out how it works, and really I think I'll do a decent job as we play here, showing you kind of how you manage that. You make sure that the AI is kind of carrying out what you want without having to micromanage it. There are ways to go about it, and you'll see those as we continue on. But actually, we don't need him at the. We need him as the bots. So as you can see, just by changing these roles over here, right here in this this portion of the screen, these are different controls for each different officer that you have, and these and everything really in this game revolves around these officers here. These guys are the central figures that kind of drive when you're doing things on the boat, where you're doing them, what you're focused on. And aside from that, kind of just for starters, you have basically the historical setup to consider, I guess. So I was talking about it earlier that anything near land, that's going to be vulnerable, especially during the day. You're going to be vulnerable going near land to aircraft. And aircraft are really dangerous, and it's fun to try to go up against them, but you'll die a lot, or you'll get sunk a lot. And, I may, as we keep going along, We'll see if we run across an aircraft, and we'll see what the situation looks like. I may go ahead and decide to fight it. You do have to worry about hunter-killer groups. You have to worry about, at least in the game that I'm playing right now, it's like they've taken the historical timeline of technology advance and moved it up a bit earlier. There's already escort carriers, ahistorically so, present in my video World War II world here. And that's a little bothersome, I will admit. They already have the technology in my little video World War II world here to attack me at night with aircraft. It's a little bit bothersome. I won't lie. There are some buggy things here and there. This game is actually still, I believe now, in early release. That's one other thing to know about U-Boat. And as a matter of fact, the build that I'm playing right here is called B128. And it was finished back in November 2020. So this is a pretty old build. I'm a little late to the party on a newer build. I haven't figured out access to it just yet. But at any rate, excuse me, we are focused on essentially at this point really just finishing up this patrol and getting back to port. And port is a whole other cool thing that I'll take you through and will be neat to see. Excuse me. So there are many different things that can be interacted with on your boat. You have the water pump, which is pretty self-explanatory. It pumps out the water that's in your boat. And one way you can see how much water you have in your boat is to just hover the mouse pointer over the water pump. There's 1.6 meters in the compartments. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn the water pump on. I'm going to order, without having any of these officers selected, I'm just going to have one of my crew members come over here and turn the water pump on to make sure that we've got all the water run out. Another thing that's important in your U-boat is to make sure that you're on the right course. You can hear that bell ringing. That always identifies when you select a new course and when you have finished traveling your selected course. Another thing that's important, as I was getting to a moment ago, is your galley. Of course, as Napoleon famously said, referring back to the game that I was just playing a little bit ago, Scourge of Waterloo, is that an army travels on its stomach, and it's the same for any U-boat full of German sailors. Really want to make sure that you're keeping the guys fed. And so I like to try to keep my galley filled up with food. And one thing to know, and so, okay, you kind of introducing you to this screen is your main storage room in the sub and all the things that it can hold. You have here what are replacement parts. You have some potassium absorbers here that make it so you can stay under longer and your guys can breathe oxygen, pure oxygen longer. You have what are called sonar decoys that help get away from danger. Same here, med kits that help you heal guys that get hurt during combat, and then all these different food items, all of which are pretty much, there's no particular benefit of one or another. They're all basically just like food units that just cost a different amount. And so much of the different variability to the food, the fact that they represent potatoes, the fact they represent bacon, vegetables, fish, doesn't really matter other than how much they cost and essentially the role-playing aspect of making it relatable. So you basically make sure that you pay close attention to your galley along with many other different functions, taking you through the U-boat here. Other functions as we get closer to the officers' quarters of the U-boat. We already showed you one, which was the radio. And that's where our radio officer is. I've clicked on him. I'm going to go ahead and give him a sailor to help him hear further and hear more stuff. He doesn't pick up on a lot, but he does pick up on plenty if you give him that extra help. Alwyn Peters is our guy. Next up, we've got our guy, Jurgen Ganga. He will get on those engines and get a couple of guys to help him. Again, helps with fuel efficiency and allows our speed to increase as much as possible. Next up, George Weber. He's up on the conning tower on watch. And having 2 sailors helping him out means that our sub gets to see enemies out further. And one thing to go over at that juncture, this juncture, is to kind of show you how that works. So you have this officer who has 2 sailors now, and this ring around the boat icon on the map indicating how far he can sight enemies. And this goes out. We'll just take a rough, call it 8, 9 kilometers. All right, so let's take one off. You can see the ring goes down. One more, goes down again. And you have a completely reduced visibility. So you always want to try to keep him staffed up on the conning tower, keeping watch during the day in particular. When a U-boat's on the surface traveling during the day, you want to be able to see as far as you can, because from time to time, as might happen as I'm playing along here, there would be a aircraft contrail pop up right like that. And since we're so close to, I mean, we have an air base right here, an RAF station, and Southwest England. There were a lot of aircraft that took off from over here. We have this aircraft that's coming our way. Now, we've got to report it, for starters. And we have now exited what's called dynamic travel, which I'll be going over shortly. Here's this contrail. He's coming. He's coming. What is he? Let's find out what he is. Okay. It's not gonna let us find out. He may be way up high. Let's go see if we can see him.
Herr Kaloy?
And this, I'm not using the keyboard right now. I'm just using the mouse. And I can't get eyes on him. He's off to my, I think he's off my starboard bow just a bit. And there the game goes. Yeah, I can't see him.
Kapitän?
I want to say that he's way up above me. So, probably go ahead and dive the boat. Get it down to about 27. We'll get him out of bed. Put him on the steering. Excuse me. And then we'll try to get down and hope that we can slide by this aircraft without too much trouble. We'll go ahead and put her into full. Hard to starboard. We haven't been spotted yet. Now we have. So, all right. He dropped, but oh, he missed. He was coming right for me. So it's not too difficult to get away from an aircraft when it's hit. As you saw there, it was good that I hit the right rudder. And it was good that he attacked me from my bow like that. Because when an aircraft is coming at you and you've got the ability to turn away like I did, and kind of you have a little more control of the engagement, even as a sub that's slower and lower, you're able to get away a little bit easier. You can see his drop was way off. And now I've gotten under the waves. We'll probably end up staying down here a while. Let's go ahead but I will say, now that aircraft, there's a chance that he's radioed some buddies warships that might come and get me. And I'm going to keep heading in the direction I was heading before. And again, you take a look up here at the clock. It's only 9:27 in the morning right now. So we got a full day of aircraft that might be around. We're not going to go real fast underwater. As a matter of fact, we probably should slow ourselves down so that we can preserve a little battery power here. And one thing, so dynamic travel, right? Things happen fast. I didn't have a chance to explain. Dynamic travel. So this is a way that this game allows you to play. You don't have to play in realistic time. Dynamic travel is, I'm going to refer to Red Dead Redemption 2 again for all you gaming fans out there. Red Dead Redemption 2 and all other open world games. I won't just be Red Dead 2. I'll say other open world games, all kinds of open world games. They do this kind of thing where a full day is portrayed, but a full day plays across the span of maybe 45 minutes, I think is what it is in Red Dead 2. I timed it once, yeah. And then it works the same way in this game, except that when you enter into combat scenarios or close contact or approaching close contact with the enemy, they will slow the time down to real time or close to real time to reflect the tightness of the situation, the danger that's incorporated in this decision-making, the fast decision-making that has to be made. When you're traveling long distances with little chance for changes in action or changes in circumstances, the game speeds time way up or makes time, move across space very quickly, and you're moving very quickly, and it enters into that more open world video game timing where a day happens across the span of maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes, a full day. So it's really neat how it does that. You'll end up in combat and you'll be, 1-to-1. 1 second is 1 second, 1 minute is 1 minute. Kind of like Scourge of War Waterloo. But when you get away from the enemy, you break contact, then the game speeds up into that dynamic travel mode. I like it thus far. It does a couple of things. In realistic travel mode, where you actually are in real time traveling from Wilhelmshaven all the way around England and around over here, you're spending the whole time looking at your map and messing with these speed up and slow down buttons. And there's a bunch more of them when you're in realistic time, in realistic travel mode, I will say too. And you can't spend as much time with what I like, which is to take a gander at my cool looking U-boat, So that is one thing about that, and it's why I like to use the dynamic travel option versus the realistic travel. Again, when you're doing realistic travel, you're having to go all the distance and take all the time. Now, they give you the chance to compress it, make it run faster, but there's two things inherently wrong with it in my mind, is that often enough, you run it too fast, you run into trouble, the game isn't able to actually process a stopping point fast enough to zip it into real time fast enough for you to make any decisions that keep you from getting killed. So realistic time basically leads you to get a little impatient with it, and then you run the time too fast, and then you run yourself into a wall, and then you end up dead. And it's pretty frustrating. So the dynamic travel, at least thus far, in my experience in playing the game thus far, allows you to kind of just relax and have the boat looking like this on the screen, and you're not in a big hurry to get here or there, but you're moving through the game really, really fast. That's dynamic travel. And it really works well, I've found, with the way that I like to try to experience the game.
Herr Kaloy.
So once again, I'm going to get these guys ready to get back into their AI schedule. And we're staying under here. We're in real time right now because we came across that aircraft. Excuse me while I wet my whistle. So we're in real time. Now, once the game kind of picks up that we have gotten some distance from the enemy, and that aircraft, I mean, we're still in real time. I don't know. That aircraft may be up above the water, circling. You know, I really don't have any idea. I have not to do, but just kind of wait. Now, what I will do, and it's really for the sake of my own patience, for my own sanity, for yours, is I will go ahead and I'll run it on fast travel. Now, here we go. We've kicked back into this dynamic travel mode, and now we're just moving across the world faster. Time is moving at a different rate, as you'll see here. 9:48. 9:53. 5 minutes at a time underwater, and then it'll move 7 minutes at a time when you're on the surface. And so a day goes by in this dynamic long-distance travel mode, I'd say in roughly 20 minutes. And of course, there's all kinds of different things that can happen within a day. When I'm totally safe, when I feel like my U-boat is in no trouble, if I'm in bad weather, if I'm in fog or anything like that, I'll run in this dynamic travel mode. I'll run 5 times or 1 time. But if I'm in a situation where danger might be nearby sometime soon, I do not. I stay, I like to be able to be ready to react like I just did with that aircraft. So now that we appear to be pretty well out of danger, at least for the time being, there's a bit of a decision to make. First things first, we're going to go to our officer here and make sure that he is staffed up manning the navigator's table. That's what that icon means right there. He is helping us navigate the world. And I think I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to bring the boat up to periscope depth for starters. We'll stay. We'll remain cautious. I just love looking at this boat. There we have a calm, bright, and sunny day. A great day for aircraft to spot me before I spot them, which is kind of what happened there just a minute ago. So I think we're just gonna kind of skim under the water here with our periscope up. And take a peek here as we go along just for a minute. You'll notice I don't have my radio man. I didn't have him on the hydrophones. I'm really not worried too much about. Well, I'll tell you what. I take that back. I take that back. That's a silly thing for me to say. Of course I'm worried about the hydrophones. Let's put him on the hydrophones. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Let's go ahead and slow down. As I told you before, I'm worried maybe, just maybe, there were warships nearby. I think the game's smart enough to where AI is able to call in reinforcements. I think. I'm not sure about that. I might be wrong. Hit me in the comments. But I'm just going to make sure that I know there aren't any warships anywhere nearby. And you can hear... So this is the game's defined hydrophone range, but really there is a max range that you can hear that's like way, way far away. Quite a bit further than they show you right here in this graphic. You see the sight circle and the hydrophone circle. And so, again, time moving very much more quickly here. We've been at periscope depth now for, looks like, coming on about maybe an hour of real time. and haven't really come upon anything either with the hydrophones or in sight. And I gotta say, considering the fact that we have 52 minutes left of air, and this is 52 minutes of real time, by the way. That's why I love how they do this. This number, fully depleted, as you can see there, as the box comes up, the bottom, fully depleted in 52 minutes. That's real time. That's not game time. Fully depleted in 33 minutes. So my battery will be depleted before my air is. And what my strategy might need to be here is to stay submerged for the rest of the day and then surface at night so that I can make the run through the English Channel, or at least portion of it at night. Make sure I don't have to worry so much about aircraft. Although it's one thing that's a little unrealistic and frustrating. Again, at this period in the war, they've kind of advanced technology further than it would have been historically, is that aircraft seem to be able to hunt you and actually accurately depth charge you at night in July 1941. It's a little ahistorical. Devs still have some work to do there, but I think that's the strategy we're going to go with, because you are harder to see at night still in the game, and it's our best bet as far as getting through the English Channel, I think, without taking on too much risk. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and zip out to the map here. We're going to move time forward a little bit faster, and we're going to get us to sundown. And we'll speed it up just a little more. And just make sure these are good. We've got some new officers that some have gone to bed, some have started up their new shift. We'll just make sure we got everybody staffed up. There's actually, I think, a better way to do this, by the way, so I don't have to go back and do it all the time, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. It has to do with the squads menu here. Anybody wants to mention anything about that in the comments, feel free. Otherwise, we are just looking for it to be night. And here we go. Patrol completed. This gives us the perfect opportunity, I would say, to get back to the boat, surface the boat. We could probably let this guy go. He doesn't need to be.
Wir sind schon so lange auf See. Ich
He
halte es
doesn't need
nicht
to be
mehr aus.
steering the boat no more.
Kapitän,
Bring the radio
Zu
guy over
Befehl.
here to the radio and have him communicate that we have completed our patrol.
Wechseln auf Dieselmotor.
As you can see, there was an alert about low air reserves that came up. So, one thing that's important for us to do is to go back here.
Besetzen Sie diese Station.
And I told you, hey, by the way, those viewing the game who've played the game, or viewing this video who've played the game, you'll notice, I told you before, I have only mouse. I'm only working with the mouse. So I'm going kind of the long way. People will use the tab key to bring up a menu to do some of these things a little bit more efficiently and quickly. I guess you'll maybe have to suffer through a little bit more zooming into the boat, but I like to look inside the boat myself. I appreciate these graphics. I appreciate the work the devs have done here. Devs, good job. But I want to go ahead. We're going to throw the red lights on here. Important thing to do.
Jawohl.
Anybody who knows about this will know that when you have red light on, you can transition from red light to darkness better. And so what ends up happening is you, in this game, can see at night better. And you really might not have noticed this. It is a little easier to see right now than it was before I had that guy go turn the red lights on. Might be hard to notice. I certainly can. YouTube, I know, just isn't real friendly with dark screen stuff. And I have darker nights on. So with the red lights on, hopefully that brightens things up a bit for you to be able to make out the horizon a little bit better like I can, for you to make out the boat a little bit better like I can. And what that does, importantly enough, is it makes sure that our captain, who is up here on watch, and his 2 sailors, can see at night as far or close to as far as you can see in the day. So how far is this? There you go. 8 kilometers at night. We'll be able to see chimney smoke out to here or so, or further, at night going through here. So if any warships are coming at us, we're going to be able to see them. Now, this is one instance where if I was coming and if I was coming around, if I was in the middle of the North Sea, I'd probably run this and I'd speed up time a whole bunch. But right now, I'm really not feeling comfortable speeding up time a ton. I really think I'm just going to bring it up to 1. And you can even watch the boat kind of motor through here. All right, here we are back in the daytime. One thing we do need to do, which we forgot about. Woo, we got some rough seas here. Is to speed the boat up. Come on. Come on, Banksies. Come on, Banksies. Don't forget. All right, let's get our officers all staffed up here doing their jobs. And now we'll really just be, now that it's daytime, I guess we'll just kind of be on the lookout for aircraft, really. And if we have to submerge again, then we'll go down and we'll stay down. But for now, I'd prefer to do what gets us home faster, which is to stay on the surface and move along that way. So a little bit more about the game and the way that it works is to understand some of these icons here of the interface and these things here. I'll start from left to right, and we'll go battery capacity for starters. This is really important when you're under the water. For those that don't know about how submarine warfare worked at these times, you used your diesel engines on the surface and you used your battery and electrical systems when you were under the water. Here next we have our fuel, which is diesel fuel. That's what that represents. When you hover the mouse over it, you can see all the information about what is impacting the rate at which I'm using my diesel fuel. Same thing for the battery, by the way. Different things can affect how fast your battery drains. And then you have here oxygen. When you're underwater for a really long time, you run out of oxygen. Slowly but surely. That's what I showed you a minute ago. And that can be a problem for you. Here you have discipline. Discipline is very important when you are under combat situations, when you're fighting a convoy and enemy warships are depth charging you. Your discipline will go down, and your men will have a hard time with the situation, and they'll either go crazy or they'll become brave or they'll pass out or have a heart attack and need medical attention. It's pretty fun to see what happens. So maybe we'll get into a tight spot here in this video. Here's a reputation. This kind of just earns you perks and upgrades to your crew and your sub, and just makes you a little bit more potent out there on the high seas. This is the representation of the number of crew members that you have working at any given time. And the number is 9. Here is our what's called budget. Now, the form of money that they use, they just call budget, which I find to be a little bit amusing, but there you have it. It's pretty cool. So I have that amount, 22,027 budget, and that's from doing a lot of merchant ship slaying. Next here is the Telegraph, which gives you your speed either forward or backward. You have ahead 1/3, ahead 2/3, ahead full, ahead flank, ahead maximum, reverse, And I think, yeah, this is slowest, this is fastest. No, other way around. Slowest, fastest. I don't go in reverse a whole hell of a lot. I kind of just rely on my fast twitch my muscle memory, which aren't great. Now we have our depth meter. Maximum depth for a U-boat really was kind of more around 200 or so. I mean, it starts to get dangerous. Your boat starts to just squeeze itself apart when you get this deep. But you have here a green kind of safe-ish depth where your men are not very affected, or they're not terribly affected by how deep you are. Then you cross into yellow where your men become much, much more affected by how deep you are. Negatively affected, I should add. And then a red area where not only are your men affected negatively, and in a significant way, your boat then becomes threatened. Pipe breaks and other things that can go wrong. Over here to the right of the actual depth meter itself, you basically have several quick commands to get you to certain depth levels quickly. You have what's called deck awash, which is kind of neat. It'll remind you of the movie Greyhound. I'll go ahead and have the boat go deck awash. And it takes a minute, so we'll fast forward a bit. And we'll let the boat get itself in it. So this is one thing. It's a simulation, really. It took a while to get a U-boat under the waves. You had to blow the tanks, and you had to, do all kinds of things. I don't quite know exactly all the things they had to do, but it took a while. That's the point. Here we are. Okay, now we have entered deck awash. So the U-boat is kind of in a prowling stance in the water now, where we are a little bit less visible to both radar and sonar and just plain visibility. This is a good way, this deck awash, to stalk enemy prey, so to speak. Okay, then you have to go the right way.
Sehr wohl, Herr
We're going to
Kanal.
go close to our coast here.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
All right.
Zu Befehl.
Then you have periscope depth, which I won't go to. I was in it just a minute ago. And then you have crash dive, which takes you down to maximum safe depth, which is 150 meters. After 150 meters, it's considered dangerous. Boat looks good going through the water like that. Yeah? All right, next up is our rudder. Bam. And of course, as you might imagine, it controls whether you're going to go left
Legen Sie den Kurs
or
Sehr wohl, Herr
right.
Kanal.
Quick, easy, boom. And then, of course, you've seen me clicking this button several times. This is your map.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
Bestätigt.
This is really, really handy. You really should keep it staffed up. Or you really should make sure that you
Kapitän.
are checking in on the map. You know, it's an important part of naval operations, really, is doing the math, doing the geometry, the trigonometry, and all the rest on the map. You know, that this was a big part of captaining a ship and conducting naval operations, was good course keeping, cartography, and all the rest. You can think of it a little bit like, what I like to think of it like anyway, is traveling through space. That's kind of what this was for the time. The ocean was a giant universe of empty space, a void, if you will, and a ship was like a spaceship traveling through space, and you weren't sure what was on the other side. You know, you were heading in a direction which the map told you was the way to go, but you weren't sure that you were going the right direction. I mean, you could be very sure. Of course, they did. They had wonderful mathematicians who were on these crews that made sure that the U-boats were going the right direction. But there was, you know, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. complicated stuff. So other features of the U-boat that I can show you are this right here, this depth finder. Control an officer,
Herr Kaloi.
which I can do here, and select this. You can see what kind of depth we have under us right now. Boop. 63 meters, not a lot, so we can't dive the boat much further under our keel. Here we have the gyro compass, which requires battery and makes noise, but helps you maintain your course and maintain your current position. Now, that's a great thing to bring up about using the map, and it's one of the reasons why maps were so integral to the way that operations were conducted at this time, because you always, like I said, you're in the middle of this gigantic expanse of ocean and things. When you're always needing to know what your location is all the time. It was one guy's job on one of these U-boat crews and a lot of different crews to literally just be doing math and calculations all the time to find where the boat is positioned, to make sure that the boat is going the right way all the time, like you can see on the map here. And so it's important to make sure that you keep somebody staffing up this navigator station so that you have to click to the map to get to the next important portion. This navigation correctness number or percentage doesn't drop to 0 for too long. If it drops to 0 for too long, you become lost, and your little boat right here, the graphic on the map, goes away. And you have no idea where you're going in the world. You have to just kind of base it on, what your surroundings are and try to stay out of danger or whatever. Pretty simple stuff. Here we have our valves, which if we selected an officer and wanted to bring him over here, we could have him blow the tank's emergency. If we wanted to come to the surface quickly from deck awash, that would help us do it. This is just to blow the tanks normal. Adjusting ballast is something we can't do right now. We have here, as I showed you just a bit ago, the station for steering under the water. These are the dive planes, of course. And when you have somebody manning that station, there's much more accurate depth keeping. Here we have our radio and hydrophone setups, which are strictly for our radio officer right here, who can become a hydrophone operator, and he's the guy who can help us hear ships really far away. And all these different compartments can be damaged. All these different compartments can have things like flooding affect them. Here we have our bow torpedo room. And you'll notice I'm still under red lighting. Probably left that over a little bit too much, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and bring the boat back to the surface. We have a little fog to aid in our travels, which is good news as we make our way through the rest of the English Channel.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten
As a matter of
setzen.
fact, I don't like that
Aye,
course.
aye, Herr Kaloi.
We have low air reserves, that's all right. Make sure we kick on both air compressors. That gets the air reserves pumped back up more quickly. And as we surface, I think that's a really good kind of first blush look at U-boat.
Herr Kaloi.
I hope that you like what you've seen right here. I'm going to continue playing and sharing my experience for a little while. I'm really digging this game right now. I hope you stick around and watch. It'll be fun. We'll be making our way back to port, making sure we dodge any other enemy aircraft that come our way through the English Channel in the next video. And should be fun. We'll see you that time. For now, we'll save it. U-boat. I hope you guys check it out.